How's it going, everybody? So in this video, I'm going to be discussing some very practical advice on how you can feel amazing and energetic and vital and vigorous the majority of the time. And we're really going to be discussing probably one of the major philosophies and concepts that's constantly draining people's energy when, let's say, you have feelings of fatigue that are mysterious and you haven't really been able to identify them yet. So this is not going to be a scientific video. We're going to be speaking in more relatable terms, in more simpler terms, and not in scientific terms, okay? Currently drinking a high-quality organic Wu Yi Oolong. This is like my 5th or 6th brew of this, actually. It's amazing that I can brew it so many times. That's how you know you got a good quality tea. So the main cause of people's fatigue, depression, lethargy, and lack of zest and vitality for life is that they're engaging in a lot of behaviors that are taking more than they're giving, okay? You're drinking a lot of coffee that's actually making you jittery and throwing your energy all over the place, and in turn, despite making you jittered and anxious, you're feeling tired but also restless at the same time. I'm sure a lot of people have that feeling, and I know I have, where I'm drinking lots and lots of coffee, probably way more than the average person, like maybe 24 cups a day or something. I don't even know. Because coffee needs to be measured in tablespoons of coffee grounds and not liquid ounces, but you can't really find, a proper reading of caffeine in coffee, and no one really cares. But anyway, don't know how much caffeine from coffee, but lots and lots of it. But pretty sure lots of people have that kind of experience where they drink lots of coffee, they feel jittery and anxious, but also kind of exhausted at the same time. It's a really interesting phenomenon, right? Depending on how you perceive energy and fatigue. But anyway, that coffee's basically taking a lot more than it's giving, and you got to hit a point where you feel so so suffering, like so negative, that you don't want to feel that way anymore. And so you want to kind of reflect on what might be making you feel that way and try to change it and address it. So in terms of like kind of coffee and caffeinated plants, you will see a huge difference in your energy levels if you switch over from coffee to something like high quality Gong Fu style brewed teas like green tea, oolong, pu'er teas. It's a 9-day difference, okay? It's a 9-day difference, okay? Anyone who has any actual experience in making that kind of switch will probably say the same thing. But you have to buy high quality teas and brew it properly. Most people, they use shitty teas, or they brew it excessively hot or for excessively long times, and wonder why they feel really bad. And that's usually why, because they're not brewing it properly, or they're using shitty tea bags, right? So anyway, just making that switch alone will have a big, profound impact. Or even further, switching over from coffee to something like guayusa or yerba mate, okay? And guayusa is probably the most vitalizing yet gentlest of all of them, which is interesting. Guayusa has l-theanine and a variety of other polyphenol compounds. A lot of people don't know this, but certain polyphenols found in yerba mate, guayusa, as well as green tea that are specific and individual to them, to the different plants, actually can act as like a rate limiter, where you hit a certain threshold of caffeine and it cuts off the absorption rates, so you don't get an overflow of adrenaline and stuff that you normally would with caffeine and other sources, like especially energy drinks. Another impact these polyphenols can have is slow the absorption to make it longer lasting. And you'll see plenty of stories of people who say they drink tea all day and they don't get that crash. And that's actually one of the primary reports people have when they make the switch over to something like yerba mate or green tea or guayusa, is they're always like, well, I don't get the jitters that I used to have with coffee, and I don't get the crash, and it's a more kind of even balanced buzz that's usually satisfying and satiating, but also energizing, right? And you'll hear reports of Chinese monk, Tibetan monks and stuff who use tea to enhance their meditation and stuff. And that's because of this kind of balanced, stimulating yet satiating and content, balanced feel that these things will give you. And so, obviously, not only do we have epicatechin gallate or ECGC in green tea, but we also have things like caffeolic acid or what have you, and that has various benefits, or cholinergic acid that has profound antioxidant properties, but also might enhance brain-derived neurotropic factor and nerve growth factor and things like that, which is one of the main reasons people take things like lion's mane, for example. And then, of course, things like l-theanine, for example. Everyone's heard of l-theanine found in green tea, but also guayusa, or not just green tea, but tea in general, like the Camellia sinensis plant, as well as guayusa. These things work together with the caffeine and other compounds. The theanine seems to have a unique effect on the NMDA receptor that kind of indirectly benefits all the neurotransmitters, serotonin and dopamine, has an overall regulating and balancing effect, but also kind of like a pro-GABAergic effect indirectly through the NMDA receptor, and more so just by lowering the kind of stimulation of glutamate. So I'm a huge fan of l-theanine, and I'm a huge fan of tea and guayusa and yerba mate over something like coffee, which has just like a super kick you in the ass type effect that many people might not really be benefiting from. And so a lot of times if you feel fatigued for no reason, it's not really cutting out the caffeine. That's not a good idea. You should try switching to tea or guayusa, and a lot of times you'll notice your whole life changes because you just feel so much better, right? And a lot of problems that you may have thought were just genetics or age or something seem to go away when you make this switch. Another thing you could do is just switch to a high mountain, like high elevation, shade-grown, sun-dried kind of coffee bean or something from Costa Rica. It might have a way better kind of beneficial effect, but in a different roast too. A lot of people don't realize dark roast has a different effect than a light roast and things like that. But anyway, definitely going to feel different if you start to drink tea and guayusa and yerba mate instead of coffee. Okay, and this is something you do all day. Right now it's about 10 p.m. No, it's like 10 p.m. And I'm over here drinking oolong because, it doesn't keep me up, doesn't give me insomnia. In fact, I think it kind of helps me get to sleep at night. Another thing that can help people with their energy is making some simple diet hacks. So I know I always talk about this diet hack, but a lot of people fight me in the comments or something like that. But look, if you consume 1 gram per pound of body weight, or per pound of ideal body weight, okay? Whatever your ideal body weight is, you want to be 180 pounds, eat 180 grams of protein, okay, from whole animal foods, okay? Right now, kind of meat prices are pretty bad, so I would say whether that's pork, chicken, or beef, okay? If you can afford beef, beef is always going to be your best option. And if you're eating pork or chicken, it's probably better to get leaner sources, but I don't really see a huge negative side effect of something like chicken thighs, like boneless and skinless, or even with the skin, because it's a very high source of collagen and glycine, which can be very beneficial to your energy and your mental health. A lot of people are probably deficient in glycine. So eating chicken with the skin on might have an overall net positive effect despite whatever polyunsaturated fatty acids it has. If we're talking immediate kind of changes in your energy levels, just getting enough protein from meat is going to have a huge impact because of the overall nutrient density you're getting. If you're getting protein powders, that protein goal doesn't really make sense. Because most people need to be eating for nutrition, not for like bodybuilding purposes. It's not what this is about. The protein goal kind of thing, yeah, it came out of like, athletic performance research, but we're using that as an optimal protein goal for amino acid neurotransmitter precursors for energy, as a precursor to glutathione, right? You get cysteine and selenium and methionine and some of these other amino acids from the meat that you eat. And these are all precursors that combine vitamin B12, vitamin B6, and folate. They all mix with homocysteine and whatnot, eventually creating glutathione. They're all kind of from the amino acids and other nutrients you get from meat. Your whole immune system is created from the meat that you eat. Your neurotransmitters are coming from the meat that you eat. And I say meat because it has a lot of these vitamins and minerals that plant foods either don't have or might possibly be inefficient at providing. But take that with a grain of salt. I think getting organ meats for things like vitamin A, vitamin K2, and these other things. Also, I've seen research that vitamin A from retinol actually might be a missing link towards healthy testosterone levels that a lot of people are missing out on, especially considering multivitamins these days have like beta-carotene and not the active form of vitamin A. Most people aren't getting enough like retinol, enough preformed vitamin A. And so I think it's very important, but like, I don't know why, but even amongst people that are into, this kind of ancestral nutrition or, eating meat and stuff like that, for some reason they still have trouble just staying consistent on like a meat-based diet. Even if they see benefit, it's weird. Like lots of aspects of their health will be measurably different, like measurably improved, and then they'll just stop the protocol. And it's like, kind of improved, but didn't give me the godlike benefits I was expecting in the 4 days that I was doing it. So I switched and now I'm doing something different. It's like, if you would just keep sticking to the protocol, probably after 4 weeks, the benefits will stack up and you'll sort of see profound metabolic shifts. But people can't stay on a program. That's a huge problem. And that's actually another thing that's stealing people's energy is they're always seeking the next thing. They're always optimizing and never adapting. Okay, something I heard from like Andy Galpin. People are always looking for the next health hack. They're always looking for the next supplement, the next kind of like magical nutrition change, and they're not actually trying to get better. They don't ever give themselves enough time with a specific program to see their body like kind of repair itself. And they might actually be moving in the right direction with a certain thing that they're doing, but because they're so neurotic and they're always changing, like, I'm going to try this next thing, they can never just like stay consistent with one thing, and so they're never going to ever get better, And I just seen this time and time again, and this was myself at first when I first got nutrition and health. But eventually, you got to kind of just find what works or what seems to be working a little bit, and stick it out for a while. But anyway, so the meat diet, damn it, this is huge because like not only all the nutritional factors I mentioned already, but also you're keeping your energy level stable by producing more glucagon, which is going to have kind of like a regulatory effect on blood sugar and insulin and things like that. Seems to have some decent effects, some beneficial effects on energy levels. And then there's another hormone that I've recently heard about that directly impacts your energy levels and kind of seems to explain why after a period of adaptation, people do intermittent fasting and low-carb/keto diets. I think it's orthorexin, I think is the name of it. But it's a neurotransmitter that boosts energy and well-being, and it's related to states of ketosis and fasting and exercise and things like that. And they all boost this orexin or whatever it is. And that would and it profoundly explained why I feel so amazing doing the things that I do. But obviously removing all refined carbs and refined foods that don't really give you any benefit. Like, why would you eat white rice? Why would you eat refined sugar? Why would you eat honey or maple syrup or jaggery or date sugar if you are not an athlete, or if you have a disease or a metabolic condition that is kind of counterindicated with this program? But this is what I see a lot of people doing. I see it in a lot of my clients and a lot of the, average people who don't really follow kind of like mentally sane kind of like nutrition programs. Lots of, if it fits their macros people especially, they're the worst at it. They wonder why they're sick all the time, dropping dead of heart attacks and stuff. Anyway, so again, following a more balanced nutritional paradigm where you get the thing that you need the most, the 20% of food that will give you 80% of the results is going to be meat. It's going to be animal flesh, and it's also going to be things like whole eggs and liver. I do believe that. But then beyond that, consuming low glycemic load carbohydrates with your meals throughout the day, and maybe some bee pollen instead of honey is a good idea for most people, unless you're an athlete like myself. So what this is going to do is it's going to keep your energy level stable. So what I found is there seems to be some kind of strange phenomena that I believe is labeled postprandial androgenic syndrome, where you might consume a huge kind of carbohydrate bolus and not notice any difference in your blood sugar levels, but you'll have a spike in anxiety and restlessness and stuff. And I found that this has happened to me in the past. It doesn't happen to me anymore. I could find I could binge on sushi and fruit and stuff and then go train a couple hours later. I've gotten myself to a point. But there was a period of my life, maybe due to gut health issues or something, where if I did that or I consumed a large amount of sugar or honey or something before training, it would make me feel like shit. But it's been interesting, especially this year, preparing for competition and stuff, where I'm regularly taking 50 grams of carbs from honey before my training. And then my friends would take me out to like buffets and stuff occasionally. And I would just eat a lot of sushi. And I'd be good to go. But a lot of people seem to have extreme lethargy and other issues or anxiety after consuming large amounts of high-carb foods. And, there's people out there that believe it's like serotonin, but these people have a very simplified view on serotonin, and it's not actually scientifically valid. And when we're talking about serotonin and neurotransmitters, we need to be more specific and speak in scientific terminology and not absolute fear-mongering jargon like a lot of people do. It's serotoninogenic, it's going to fuck your ass up. No, it's not. That is a very elementary level understanding of how neurotransmitters work, okay? You don't just eat carbs and serotonin is produced and then it creates one effect. That's not how it works. Or you take 5-HTP or an SSRI and it has one absolutist effect across the board on everybody. And because it's serotonin, no, that's not how it works. But anyway, so yeah, eating a diet that makes sense, okay? And I would say what I've already laid out, okay? And if you're going to have a little bit of rice here and there, that's cool. I would recommend things like black rice, brown rice, and beans if you can tolerate it. But if you have excessive gas and bloating and stuff like that, it might be better to switch to something like fruit, especially like berries and low glycemic load fruits. And anything that is low glycemic load, high nutrient density, is probably going to be good to go as long as it doesn't, cause trigger any kind of negative, uncomfortable symptoms. But another thing to keep in mind is if you're adding something new into your program that your gut microbiome's not used to, it is normal for you to experience some flatulence and digestive discomfort for a couple days. Some people might find that they have better overall kind of energy levels and mental health and things and more stability throughout the day if they consume more low glycemic load, non-starchy vegetables, believe it or not. And more fats too sometimes. So anyway, let's talk a little bit about mindset, okay? Obviously, the more that you worry, the more tired you're going to feel, because anxious feelings, they are not just harmless thoughts, and you literally choose your thoughts. You literally do have the ability to use effort, conscious effort, to change what you're focused on. And so most people are mentally lazy and allow themselves to just worry about everything and freak out about everything. Okay? There is no reason to allow your emotions to overwhelm you and just have outbursts all the time, no matter how stressed you think you are. So stress is not a physical, real thing that builds due to outside circumstances. Stress is created from your reaction and interpretation of what's going on. Okay, and of course there's a degree of like tangible, objective things that can contribute, like if your life is in immediate danger, but 9 times out of 10, it's because you are allowing your thoughts to go on autopilot, and that is never good because we have a negativity bias in human psychology that will automatically make your thoughts go towards negative behaviors and thoughts and patterns and things and worries and fears that will literally drown you in physical pain. It'll feel like, okay? That's how stress works. And really, all you got to do is, first of all, start drinking tea, okay? Because the theanine and other compounds in tea, combined with the caffeine, is actually going to make you feel more calm and relieve stress. Black tea has studies on this for depression and anxiety and stress symptoms, and cortisol, lowering it. Believe it or not, they've measured blood with blood tests, endocrinology. So the other thing is taking reishi mushroom and l-theanine. These things can definitely help relieve stress and these issues, okay? So the more that you allow yourself to kind of like feed into anxious thoughts and things, the less energy you'll have. And you will find if you start to use meditation, breathing practices where you're just focusing on your breathing and having a mindful breathing, or if you do some of these reflective contemplation exercises I've made videos on in the past, where you start to think about what do I feel right now, and let yourself feel the feeling, and you think about why do I feel this way, and you keep getting deeper into the why. Eventually you find a solution. Most people, they spend so much effort trying to resist their problem and run away from it and not think about it, that it's always there kind of like in the background, because basically what you resist persists when it comes to these things, and all it's doing is weighing you down. Like you literally feel like you have a backpack, like you literally feel like you're drowning in your problems, right? And the more that you actually allow yourself to feel these problems and be with these problems and address these problems and see them for what they are, the more you drain the water tank, the more and more that water starts to drain, and the less and less you're drowning. You could also think of this as weight, all this weight crashing down on your body, right? There's all this weight on your shoulders, and you're constantly being weighed down by it. And these are all your problems that you're not addressing right now in the background. The more that you address these problems in the background, the more and more this weight is taken off your shoulders, and the lighter and lighter you feel. A lot of times you feel tired because you have a lot of mental and emotional weight on you at all times. And this mental and emotional weight is literally the problems that you are holding on to and not thinking about, the problems you're running away from. There's no amount of alcohol, antidepressants, crying and complaining on Facebook. There's no amount of emotional outbursts that can help you. And the only thing that can help you is, number one, cultivating balance in your energy. So this can be done, again, through drinking more tea, taking more theanine, cutting out things like nicotine, things like sugar, things like more aggressive stimulants, okay, and switching over to something like tea. Those things just make these problems worse. They make you more neurotic. They make you more kind of like chasing dirty stimulation. And they're also kind of like a scapegoat where all your problems are there and you're like, you're like cracked out. You're like, I gotta run away from these problems somehow. Where's like the next kind of dirty fix that can make me forget about my problems? And then you'll do like cocaine or something stupid. I don't know, but find a damn stimulation, or you'll scroll the Facebook news feed, or you'll watch porn or drink alcohol, and it's like, meanwhile, the solution is so simple, right? But they're like, nope, I got to watch Andrew Huberman's podcast about how to relieve depression and anxiety and stuff like that. It's like, that's good. Understanding the mechanisms is always a good thing. But how about we be human, right? How about we sit down with the weight, the feelings that we're trying to run away from? Because when we start to do this, they no longer are a threat, and that's all that stress is. You are literally maybe unconscious. You're running away from your problems, running away from the tiger that is causing the fight or flight. That the running away is stress. It's not the problems themselves, okay? Can't even repeat that enough, okay? And so the minute you stop running, you're now the courageous hunter. You stab the damn saber-toothed tiger to death, and guess what? You build confidence, and you have a solution, and now you're able to attack your problem, and you no longer have a threat because you stabbed it to death by just like sitting with your problems, okay? That weight lifts off your shoulders, and what happens when you're carrying... How do you think you feel when you have like a backpack on your back and it's full of like 100-pound bricks, okay? And you're walking up a mountain of life trying to get to your goals. You feel heavy, weighed down, tired, lethargic, like shit. And you're dreading that mountain. But what happens when you take off that backpack, right? Or you start to take bricks out one by one? You get lighter and lighter and lighter, and you also get stronger. You get a super compensation effect, okay? Just like building a muscle, you're able to recover and come back stronger, and you're lighter. You don't really feel tired, and now you can go ahead and reach your goals, okay? Literally, people are eating too many carbohydrates, especially the wrong types. They're not eating enough protein, especially from the right sources. They're taking too much caffeine from the wrong sources, or not taking any caffeine at all. They're not utilizing tonic herbs or L-theanine, or they're going on these weird things like some of these like research chemicals, or they're looking for SARMs or like TRT, which is probably not a bad thing depending on who it is. Usually, my stance on that is if you're doing everything right, you'll probably have no need for TRT or anything like that. They're trying all sorts of things, coenzyme Q10 or something like that, and they think they get a boost from it, which is interesting because I tried coenzyme Q10. I got nothing from that at all. I think I actually felt even worse. But like, all you really need is the biggest bang for your buck things, okay? And these are the biggest things. Switching your caffeine intake, getting more sleep, getting more rest, okay? Duh, right? But if you're sleeping too much, you might actually you need more momentum. Starting to exercise more, building your fitness level. A lot of people, they feel tired because they have a very low aerobic capacity. Aerobic capacity is basically your body's foundational level to provide oxygen and blood to the tissues during prolonged activity. So, people think that they can just do sit-down jobs and sit on the couch and watch TV all the time, and then occasionally they'll go on vacation, right? and they'll go out to Las Vegas or something, and they're walking, and after 1 hour they're crying like, oh, it's hot out here, I'm dying, and like I can't walk anymore, my feet hurt. And then they say stupid shit like, oh, I'm old and blah blah blah. And it's like, no, the problem is your body is literally adapted to sitting on your ass all day. That is the problem. And you can't just sit on your ass all the time and then go out and try to go on vacation and walk. The reason why you're tired and you lack the ability to like go on vacation and not lose energy is not because you're old. It's because you need to build aerobic capacity. Okay, if your body is adapted to sitting on its ass all the time, and you just randomly go on an hour-long walk, and no matter where it is, you go to the mall or whatever, you're gonna feel tired because you don't have aerobic capacity. Your body's not adapted to that. Okay, you just shock the system. That's a crazy. Your body feels like it just went through a crazy round of exercise, even though comparatively speaking, it's nothing fantastic, but that's the way adaptation works. And you'd be surprised how out of shape people are. But people don't study exercise science. So even if they did, they don't realize that it literally applies to all aspects of your life. Okay? That's a huge reason why people are tired, though. And the reason why it seems like children are just like so energetic and they can do all this shit, and the reason why it seems like it's age is because childhood and these days is different because most parents are not good letting their children just be on their video game systems and shit. But basically, at least when I was a child, I had recess from school. I was always outside. My granny and my mom was always working. My mom and dad were working all the time, and my granny would watch over me. But regardless, I was always outside. I was climbing trees. I was riding my bike when I finally learned how to ride my bike. I was always outside any chance I would get. And so, of course, if you are young and you're allowed to always be outside and be active, because children, that's like their natural inclination because they're not programmed to be like, slaves of the machine and corporate, whatever, slugs, sloths, eating shit. People are just eating shit. They're feeling like shit. They're acting like shit. They're thinking like shit. It doesn't surprise me that they feel like shit all the time. And they're addicted to it too. It's really crazy. They'll willingly continue to eat shit, think shit, and do shit and feel like shit. And then they are complaining about feeling like shit, but not really doing anything to change it. Anyway, so yeah, if you are, so young people typically are adapted to a high capacity of exercise. Old people are usually adapted to working a 9-to-5 job, going home and laying on the fucking couch after work and being lazy. And that's why they're fat, they're overweight. That's why they feel like shit. Even if they're not overweight, they're not fit. Being fit has nothing to do with how fat or how skinny you are. It has to do with what metabolic adaptations your body has made. And so if you're adapted to sitting on your ass all the time, your body is not going to be feeling very good doing anything outside of being on your ass all the time. The less that you exercise, the less your body is adapted to exercise. That's all there is to it. So you need to have a higher volume and frequency of training. Okay. Mindset hacks. You're going to need to read Awaken the Giant Within by Tony Robbins. Mindset hacks. You want to read the Magic of Thinking Big by Dr. Schwartz. I think it's David Schwartz, PhD. Also, Positive Psychology. It's a overview of the science of the field. Forgot the author's name. It's like Mary Annabelle something. But Martin Silvage or something also has good work. But positive psychology and kind of like all the different factors involved in living a fulfilling life. Too many people are fixated on like, how do I relieve depression? How do I relieve anxiety? And then how do I like relieve childhood trauma? And it's like you're so focused on fixing what you think is broken that you're always focused on that, and you're always going to get more solutions on how to fix a broken problem. Instead, what you should focus on is how can I live a positive life? How can I? What are some habits and things? Focus on building a positive life and feeling good, not on fixing broken patterns that you have in your life. Because 9 times out of 10, first of all, the problems solve themselves when you start to focus on living a better life. Okay, a lot of people never are able to make that jump and transform beyond their suffering because they're living inside of it. It seems so much worse than it might actually be, and they're always focused and fixated on their problems. They're never able to transform into that better version of themselves. And so it's important to change your paradigm and approach to solving your mental issues. And that would be focusing instead on how do I build a better life for myself, not on how do I fix the broken life that I don't really like. Huge, huge difference. It is not the same thing. So you need to get rid of relationships that don't really benefit you, that don't value you. You need to get rid of jobs that take people that take more than they give, situations that take more than they give, places that take more than they give. You need to start focusing on value, focus more on win-win, focus more on people and activities and other things that give you more than they take. Get rid of social media. I will make a whole nother video about this, but I completely deleted my old Facebook page, for example, and made a new one at the beginning of this year. And it's been tremendous because Facebook is literally turning into a pile of shit. I was avoiding talking about that for a long time because I just don't want to feed into it. But I don't even care at this point. It is literally the epitome of feeding you mental shit. Like, it is horrible for your brain. It's only getting worse with these reels and shit. Pretty much none of the people on your Facebook page you really care about or you really know personally, and so it makes no sense to be on Facebook, especially for as many hours a day people are on. It literally serves no purpose for many people in their life. So get rid of these things. Get rid of porn and all these things. And a big problem people have is they just need to make a decision. People can't just make a choice to get rid of these things. So anyway, so there's a whole lot of things that I can keep going on about, but I'm gonna leave it at that. So there's some other things. So more GABA. You need to start to focus on relaxation, focus on cultivating more energy. So focus on things that give you more energy. Obviously, things like flow states, exercise, eating nourishing foods and nutrition hacks like that. Taking supplements like l-theanine if you did drink some coffee and you feel too jittery. These things will kind of fortify your nervous system and neurotransmitters in a way that's going to make you feel more nourished. That's what we're looking for. A nourishing stimulation is what we want from everything in life. Nourishment, nourishing stimulation, nourishing friendships and relationships, etc., etc. You want to have alignment in your thoughts, words, and actions in your value systems. And then if you have females and friends and relationships that aren't in alignment with that, you can kind of focus less on it and instead replace those things with things that are more kind of in tune with your focus and your value system and things. And that's what you should really focus on. So it's like a comprehensive approach. So you should start to get into meditation, exercises that kind of help you build energy and don't leave you feeling depleted and stuff like that. Eat foods that make you feel nourished and whatnot, and relax in a way that makes you feel nourished. You need to create a sleeping environment that makes you feel nourished. Have a job and a career and passions and a process of mastery that nourishes you. Make sure your environment throughout the day and the various situations you find yourself in are at least mostly nourishing. And whenever you go and you talk to people, no matter who they are and how they're acting towards you, always try to transmute any anger or anxiety into a more productive and nourishing state of being. And try to see those people for the best. See the best in your present, see the best in your past, see the best in your future, and you'll start to get more of the best, okay? And one more thing I'll say is, like, if you're interested, like, if you need more encouragement to move in a positive direction, reading things like Neville Goddard and the Law of Assumption, reading books like The Secret by Rhonda Byrne, which I think is a very great kind of book that gives you all the tools you need to build a mindset, habits, and techniques and things like visualization, journaling, and affirmations. Like, these are really powerful things that will really help you build a great life. Like, no matter what you believe, or religion, or spirituality, or science, it doesn't matter. And these are backed by science. They may not sound magical in the scientific literature. Really, nothing does in science. But they have shown to have very profound benefits. And a lot of the leading success authors and experts, like Stephen Covey, does a lot of work on, like, happy relationships and healthy families and stuff, and also success principles. 7 Habits of Highly Effective People is his masterpiece. Talks about self-fulfilling prophecies, right, and living in the end. Like, these are important, very important practical things that you can utilize on a practical level. So anyway, I'm very tea drunk, lots and lots of tea in the last 4 hours or so of making these videos. So I'm going to leave you all with this. Leave your question and comments down below and let me know what you think, and I'll talk to y'all next time.